Welcome to the Elk Talk Podcast with Randy Newberg and Corey Jacobson. Presented by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
The goal is, what little you and I know about elk hunting, we share with people.
I've got an elk bugling, it's like 120 yards away. What do I do? First off, the thought would never cross my mind when an elk's bugling 120 yards away to call anybody on a cell phone.
All elk?
All the time? Only elk?
Only elk.
Well, it's us having conversations, so we usually go down some rabbit holes, but
If you hunt with Corey Jacobson, you will find the landscape is full of rabbit holes. We're just going to make this up as we go.
and you look at it like, oh, that's a target-rich environment. But if you're trying to single one out, a solo target there is much easier to go into than a big group.
We record everything, so there's no BSing, no lying, no faking it with us.
Did we hit the record
I
button?
thought I forgot to hit the record button. If you want to know something about elk hunting, this probably isn't the podcast to listen to. Should we give them a list of all the other podcasts where they might learn something? The Elk Talk Podcast is brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, ensuring the future of elk, other wildlife, their habitat, and our hunting heritage. To become a member, go to rmef.org.
The Elk Talk Podcast is also brought to you by Mountain Ops, making outdoor energy and performance nutrition to make you a stronger and healthier elk hunter. They have a full line of hunting-related supplements, including meal replacement shakes, multivitamins, pre-workout fuel, and post-workout recovery. And my favorite, their new performance protein bars that, by the way, are packed with 270 calories and 20 grams of protein, but contain less than 6 grams of sugar. Visit mountainops.com to learn more and to order, and be sure to use the promo code ELKTALK to save on your next order.
The podcast is also brought to you by Gerber. Go to gerbergear.com and learn about the knives, the Vital, the Big Game Vital, the Gator Premium, all the things that we use when we're out in the woods, and not just knives, but also some really cool multi-tools that they have.
And we have a promo code for Gerber as well. Just use the code ELKTALK to save 20% on your orders at gerbergear.com. And we are also brought to you by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. And Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls is the original designer and inventor of the pallet plate diaphragm that's completely changed the way elk calls are made and used. And to find out more and to order your elk calls, go to RockyMountainHuntingCalls.com or BuglingBull.com and use promo code ELKTALK, and you're going to save 15% on all of your elk calls and elk call accessories.
The Elk Talk Podcast is also brought to you by Go Hunt Maps. We've been using Go Hunt Maps since they started, providing them with our feedback and our ideas to add to their maps and their tools. So if you go to gohunt.com and sign up for their Explorer maps, you'll get all 50 states for the low price of $49. And by using promo code ELKTALK, they're going to give you $20 of credit in their gear shop that you can apply towards things you might want for this upcoming hunting season. GoHunt.com, Explorer Maps, promo code ELKTALK.
Lastly, the University of Elk Hunting online course is a proud partner of the Elk Talk Podcast. And within the University of Elk Hunting online course, you're going to find nearly 60 chapters organized in 17 modules of elk hunting instruction aimed at making you a more successful elk hunter. From planning and e-scouting to calling strategies and packing, every imaginable elk hunting topic is included in the online course. And regardless of your previous elk hunting experience or success, I'm confident the University of Elk Hunting online course will make you a more confident, more successful elk hunter. Just visit elk101.com and use the promo code ELKTALK to save 20% when you sign up for a membership to the University of Elk Hunting online course.
And with that, Corey, we are ready to get into it.
Let's jump into it.
Hey, Corey, happy October 17th.
Man, we're already halfway through October. I'm still finding myself waking up thinking it's September.
Well, you could do that. It's just a state of mind, and it's free. So.
Yeah, but when the elk quit bugling, it just doesn't seem like September anymore.
Did they quit bugling?
Well, they're getting there. They start hearing those gunshots, and for whatever reason, some of them get smart.
When did the gunshots start in Idaho? Did you guys start your rifle season yet?
Yeah, so it started, some of the units, especially in the northern part of the state, the general season opens October 10th. And then down here where we're at, and most of them down here, October 15th. So just open Saturday, which a Saturday opening day is always tough because it's really easy for people to get off work Friday night and be up there for opening day. I think the elk are a little more likely to be vocal on opening day. And so I'm wondering if it might have converted to a little bit more success this year on opening day than normal.
Yeah, well, that'll quickly put the bull elk in the post-rut mode once the gunshots start going off. I just got back. This is the first weekend I've been home sleeping in my own bed since September 12th. So I apologize to the folks listening that I failed to get a podcast loaded. We'd recorded it the one day I was in town, and then when we got it back from the editor, it fell through our cracks here and it didn't get posted in time, Corey. So I apologize to you and I apologize to the audience because there's this really cool story in that podcast about your Colorado elk hunt.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. But, as my uncle used to say when I worked for him, gee, Randy, you do good work. Too bad you don't do very much of it.
You no longer work for him, huh?
No, Uncle Larry, he's a dearly loved man, but I decided it was time to get serious about college, and so
that was probably all part of his plan.
It might have been. I'm thankful that he kind of he took care of me. He walked that fine line of kind of making sure I wasn't starved out while I was in college. But when I started to not focus on college anymore, he kind of weaned me off the support system there. So, which was exactly what I needed. So, but after our last podcast, you just got back from Colorado. I was getting ready to head into the general season hunts of Wyoming, and I think you were going to go try. You or one of your kids still had an elk tag, I think.
Yep, Sam still had, and spoiler alert, maybe still has an elk tag. And then we were heading to the Outfitters for Hope hunt after that first week of October. So, quite a bit's happened since we last chatted.
Yeah, so we've had all those, and then I just got back from Wyoming. We have a sweepstakes winner who Sean came all the way from Georgia, burned all of his points to get a limited entry tag in Wyoming. And anybody who says that elk aren't bugling on October 12th have never hunted this part of Wyoming.
I've had people tell me, on these big private ranches where there's not much pressure and there's a lot of elk and they're just, free to act normal, that they'll keep bugling actively into the middle of November sometimes. So,
that doesn't surprise me in this place. I was quite impressed, and it was full moon, so I don't know what to make of that, but the elk didn't seem to care. But
there's cows to be bred. We don't care what the moon says.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, I was surprised where we went in Wyoming on the general tag. I guess when you're going in on a 6-hour hike and you bring a whole string of llamas, you kind of think you're going to get away from the crowd, right?
Yeah.
These Wyoming folks, they get serious about their elk hunting. I think there were more people in the backcountry that rode their horses in there than there were people hunting from trailheads. It was amazing.
Had a tough place to find, or had a tough time finding a place to pitch the tent, huh?
Yeah. But, you run into a lot of people and everybody, they were all just super friendly people, ton of fun. But I think the reason everybody was so friendly and so smiling is pretty much everybody we ran into had an elk. So,
that helps.
Yeah. And we have a piece of footage, Corey, from that hunt. Bo Beatty was with us. And there's this bugling sequence going on. And there's a bull in the timber down below them. I was over hunting a different spot. But I watched the footage, and this is the most aggressive, deep-throated. I listening to the footage, I thought, man, there's going to be a 400-inch bull elk step out here any second. And a raghorn stepped out. Bo shot him anyhow, but
well, you have to when they bugle like that. I mean, that's
yeah. When we left, Bo's wife Kirsten, when we left with all the llamas, she's like, "Bo, we don't have any elk meat. You better not be hunting for horns this trip." And I didn't know if Bo was listening to that part or if he had big aspirations, but he's a well-behaved husband.
Oh, man.
The first elk, the first morning they came into the calls, boom. He took care of that problem.
And this was during archery season, right?
This would have been September 26th, I think. So, yeah, archery season is still open, but some of their backcountry units in Wyoming open to rifle that last, like 25th or 26th.
Oh,
I think
gotcha.
It's 26th. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, there's a 300 win mag type.
Bow hunt.
Yeah, which they don't do that well at 110 yards with the 300 win mag. So,
how many llamas did you take?
I'm embarrassed to say, I thought we were going to take 5 or 6. Well, Bo, he said, no, we're going to shoot 3 elk, so we got to bring some spares. So everybody got 1 llama for their personal gear. So there were 2 camera guys, me, Bo, and my buddy Mike Spitzer. So that was 5 llamas. And then he said it's going to take at least 2 llamas per elk. So we're bringing 6 llamas to pack all these elk out. I'm like, Bo, you're crazy, man. We aren't going to shoot 3 elk. Well, either he's got a really good crystal ball or he knew what he was doing. Because later that evening, opening day, Mike Spitzer shot a nice 5x6 that, again, called it in. Boom. So I was floundering around doing all kinds of stupid stuff while they were killing elk. I had all these concocted ideas of, okay, all the hunting pressure is going to be here. I'm going to go there. I had no idea that everybody was going to just hunt from the horse trails. I thought, well, they're going to ride to these spots and then they're going to go in here. So I'm going to be over there. I should have been like the rest of them. I should have just sat on the horse trail. So
is that what you ended up doing?
No. So I didn't get one the first day. I was like thinking, that at first night I'm back at camp thinking, well, that's about right. Everyone else shoots an elk but me. So then the bad part was my liver was not doing well on this whole trip. So the second morning I was so sick I had to sleep in till noon, and I got up and we're talking strategy, and Mike and Marcus, our camera guy, they're like, we'll go get Mike's bull out this afternoon, and Bo had already got his elk out, and so Bo, he's like, well, can I come with and just call for you if you go out this afternoon? I'm like, sure. I said, I'm going to go right down here below camp because this is the least likely place anyone would ever hunt. And I'm going to go down there.
What made it least likely for somebody to hunt?
It was really steep and it was really thick, nasty timber. Where they're on the north-facing slopes where there was timber, and nobody would want to go there. And the trail had washed out. So the horse guys they would have had to really have some athletic horses to get around some of this stuff. And maybe you could get horses through there. I don't know. But I was wondering if we could get llamas through there. And Bo took that as a personal challenge. He's like, oh, I can get my llamas through there. Well, we did get them through there. So it's 4 p.m, and it's hotter than the blazes. I mean, just as beautiful as September weather as you could ask for, other than it's not good elk hunting weather.
Yeah.
But if I was an elk and it's that hot, where would I go? I would go on this great big north-facing slope that is now straight across from this trail I'm walking on. And I had it in my mind. I wanted to go about 1.5 miles, and we got about a half mile in, and Bo said, "You mind if I bugle?" Go ahead. You can bugle every step of the way if you want. I don't care. So he does that. Nothing happens. He's like, "Oh, I must really be bad." I'm like, "No, just..." The 4th time we stopped, so we're like 3/4 of a mile from camp, maybe. He bugles, and a bull way up on the ridge, like in the top 4th of the ridge up there, responds just like, kind of like when they're bedded.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll tell you I'm the boss, but I don't want to get out of my bed and make a bunch of noise. And Bo looks at me, and I'm like, see, told you. And so he does a few more bugles, and that bull would respond once in a while. Now the shadows are starting to come. It's, I don't know, 4:30-ish or so. And he does a bugle, and now there's one working its way across the bench about mid elevation. And this guy is serious. He's like, I'm coming. Just hold on. And Bo looks at me, and I'm like, just keep calling. And I move over to the left in this big opening because I needed some shooting lanes. There's one little fir tree in about a, 40-acre little slide on the hillside. And so I get in the shade of that fir tree with our camera guy, Jace, and Bo's looking at me. I'm giving him the, like, just keep at it. And this bull just keeps walking. You can't see him, but you can hear him. He just keeps at the same elevation, walking east. Then he walks west, walks east, walks west. All I can figure is he probably had some cows, and he wasn't going to leave them. Well, we do a few cow calls, and then things really, now there's bulls all over the mountain out there. I'm like, holy cow. At 4:30 in the afternoon, they're going to get this wound up. And I'm sitting there, and I hear a clunk down in the willows below me. There's willows growing in this old creek bed and a bunch of fir. And this nice 5x6 bull elk steps into an opening. He hasn't said a peep. And I just ranged that little stump he was by at 100 yards. And I'm like, Chase, right here. And suffice to say, a 308 at 100 yards really isn't fair.
With an elk bugling.
No, there were so many learning points in that encounter. One, to me, the learning point was, don't be afraid to bugle. Because if we would have just decided, well, we got to walk to that 1.5 mile point where I'd kind of in my head thought that's probably the best place to be, we would have walked past 4 bulls that were bedded on a north-facing slope. And so the point there is, what's the harm in bugling?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Man, that needs to go on a shirt. What's the harm in bugling?
Yeah, I mean, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and the other part of that is you never know how many bulls are there.
Yeah.
Okay, we heard 3, maybe 4, but the one I shot came in completely silent, and we wouldn't have heard him other than when you had to cross those willows. There's a little bit of a creek bed there. And an elk can be pretty quiet on, moist dirt or even in pine needles. But when he crosses a rocky creek bed, you're going to hear him.
Yep.
But my point of that is, don't think that the only elk there is the one you're hearing. Because this guy, I mean, he's at least a 3.5-year-old bull. He's a very nice bull, a big bodied dude. And he was just coming in silent. And I think that one bull that was making all the noise, walking back and forth, I think he had a group of cows in there. We never saw him. But there were enough bulls around him that once they started sounding off, he started getting rambunctious and wanted to tell the world, hey, stay away from here.
Yeah.
And then as quick as we did a few cow calls, I mean, we call it a cow party when we kind of split up. And, you know, Bo was buried in the thickest patch of fur you've ever seen. I mean, they weren't going to see him. So once all the action started and the bugling started, because I was out in the open more, I'm like, I got to shut up because they will lock in on me. You'll see in the footage when we air it, that bull comes walking in and he is looking right at Bo.
Yeah.
And I'm over there jacking a shell in, whispering to the camera guy, and he's just locked in over at, you know, the 10 o'clock position, and I'm over here at 2 o'clock. He had no idea. And, you know, I suspect when we left camp at maybe 3 o'clock, it was so hot. I bet a lot of people were still like, it's too hot. You won't kill an elk for another 2 or 3 hours. Well, there's just so many lessons to me in that one little encounter that are just basics, that it's a reminder to me of don't ever think that it's a bad idea to call.
Yeah.
When the elk are in the rut, you don't know. You know, what is Wayne Gretzky always said, you'll never score or any shot not taken will never score a goal or something like that. Well, any call not made is not going to call in an elk.
Yep.
I mean, I'm pretty.
Finally, we got Randy to understand what we're talking about here. If it's September, just bugle.
Yeah, I mean, and Bo, you know, like a lot of us, he's like, oh man, I don't know if I sound right. I'm like, Bo, they don't care. It's just, are you in hearing distance? And the wind was blowing pretty good that day, so I don't know if that bull way up on that ridge could hear. I mean, that bull was probably 3/4 of a mile away in dark timber and probably 500 feet elevation above us. So was he going to be able to hear it? No. But finally, we got in the right situation and he heard it. And he decided to respond. And the funny part was there's a group of guys from North Dakota who we'd met at the trailhead. And when I shot, obviously the bulls shut up for a while. But then they start talking again, and you can hear them working their way up the ridge. And the one guy's like, oh, my dad is up there. He rode his horse up there. And I bet you 10 minutes after they left us, kaboom, you hear a shot right up there on top of the ridge. And, you know, to his credit, he wasn't sitting at camp when it was, 75 degrees. He said, well, I can sit up here in this little saddle and hunt just as easily as I can sit in camp and sleep. And, so a lot of lessons came of that one. And we saw one great big bull, but you'd need a helicopter to get to him.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how he gets there, and I don't know how he gets out of there. He is up on this ridge that is nothing but rock face to get there. And then there's this big bench up there. Maybe there's some way to come in from the backside, but boy, he's a great big one. Whew. Bo and Mike and Marcus looked at me. They're like, what do you think? I said, I don't need an elk that bad. I just don't know what to tell you. I don't need one that bad.
I thought you were going to say, I don't need a path to get up there. We'll figure it out.
No,
it's that bad.
Even Bo said you couldn't get llamas up there.
Wow.
I'm like, well, heck with that then. So, so yeah, that night. But Bo was he said, because I told him, I said, I'm shooting a bull elk tonight. And he said, "You are?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got to sleep till noon. My liver's starting to feel better. I've got some rest. I took all these meds. I'm going to kill an elk tonight. You okay with that?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm bringing 2 llamas with if you're that confident." So he did. And this was another thing. He was worried about his llamas making noise. Well, they were just sitting there eating grass. And I don't know if when that bull got close, if he could hear them pulling that grass, you know how it makes kind of that ripping noise, and you could hear their hoofs a little bit when they reposition themselves in the dirt, but they were buried in this thicket of fur that you couldn't see them. So I wonder if that also put this bull at ease, like, man, not only do I hear a cow up there, they're eating away, man. I better get up there. The party started and I'm late.
Speaking of that, it's funny, you know, we always talk about it's okay to roll rocks and break branches. It's just natural sounds. We're in Colorado calling in elk, and I look back and Donnie's back there grabbing handfuls of grass and carrying it just like an elk would be eating it. Just, you know, blend in and make it sound like a bunch of cows were there eating grass. So,
well, it worked here, or at least it surely didn't scare them away. Well, we brought 2 llamas down to where the guy, it was a frontal shot with the 308 is pretty easy. I mean, at 100 yards, you know, how big is that target? 10 inches probably. And I'd way up above him and he's looking up. I'm like, you know, I normally wouldn't advocate a frontal shot, but I'm like locked in on a solid rest here. I'd have to purposely try to miss. He made it like 8 steps and then he's standing behind some trees, and I shot a second time just because of my theory that if an elk's on his feet, you shoot.
Yep, absolutely.
He went maybe 10 yards, if that. But so we got to pack him back that night and we were done.
Man. And day 2, 3 elk killed.
Yeah, so the next morning we got up. We had tenderloins for breakfast, and then we took care of all the meat. And this is, you know, you've seen with llamas how you got to weigh each side to the pound.
Yeah.
Bo did a really good job of estimating how many llamas we needed, because the boned out meat and the antlers and the heart and stuff like that was just over 600 pounds.
Wow.
So those 6 llamas each got to carry 100 pounds out of there.
Wow.
It is steep. I mean, I was almost ready to say, bury me here. I don't think I can make the ridge, you know. I'm adequately insured. Just take a picture of me tipped over here and call my wife so she can show the picture to the life insurance company. And those llamas just chugged right out of there with 100 pounds each. But
man, so you had 11 total llamas in?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Each guy got 1 llama for their gear, which for the camera guys, I mean, they are carrying a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 llamas per elk. So, and the horse guys, I mean, I can't believe how many horses are these Wyoming dudes. I mean, have you ever run into gobs of horseback hunters in Wyoming?
A handful, yeah. I wouldn't say gobs, but we ran into them.
I give them all the credit in the world, man. They aren't messing around. They're like, we're going to do this and we're going to do it right. And boy, they were really knocking them down. Opening morning, I'm like, well, there aren't going to be any elk left with all the shooting going on in here. And some of them stopped by our camp. It was fun to meet, you know, people that you never would otherwise meet. And they're all excited. And we were chasing a group of elk the first day and that evening, and they were going up the hill. And my fat butt can't keep up with them. And they're bugling. I mean, all heck is breaking loose. And we get right to near the crest, and it opens up. And all of a sudden, kaboom, whack. I'm like, well, I think Mike's supposed to be out here somewhere. Maybe that was Mike shooting. So we go up the ridge as fast as we can. And we look, and there's some old guy there with an old bleached out orange hat. I'm like, well, that's not Mike. And here comes another 5-point chasing a cow. Brrr, we're just going to town after this guy had shot one. And I had a 330-yard shot, but I just run up this hill, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, we walked over to this old boy. I don't know how old he is, but he's got to be in his late 70s. And one shot with his 338. It's like, yep, got another one. And here come the outfitter with all the horses. And I'm like, man, that's the way to get around this country.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was an experience I'd not done before that far back in there. I'd not ever watched guys hunt on horseback to the degree these folks were and be as effective as they were. But it was a ton of fun. And
Well, that's cool.
it was so predictable where the elk were going to be. There's so much grass in the openings and in the upper areas that every opening you looked in, there's cow elk in there just laying on the feed bag. Well,
that's where the cows are. The bulls won't be far behind.
Yeah. So, anyhow, that was fun. A lot of lessons were reinforced on that hunt, and I just say to anybody, when you see this episode, you're never going to put your bugle away ever again when you have the thought in your head, no, should I call, should I not? Call.
Yep.
When in doubt, call.
Man, all sorts of good Randyisms in this one.
So, anyhow, but that was a lot of fun. And
so that was the last week of September then?
Yep.
So peak rut. Just, bulls breeding cows, bulls herding cows, fighting each other, keeping each other away from their cows.
Yeah. And everybody that we ran into back there hunts it a lot. And they're like, man, this is the first year I've ever hunted up here without 6 inches to a foot of snow. I'm like, oh, that's all right.
Yeah,
we got
a good year.
Yeah. Sounds like a heck of a deal to me. I'm not coming back next year because you guys will have 3 feet of snow. But so then you, while I was out pronghorn hunting, you were out doing, what is it? Hunters for Hope or Hunt for Hope or whatever.
Outfitters for
Hope. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually we hunted the same area that you hunted with your buddy that had the super tag. Back, middle of the month. So we
there were still lots of elk there.
It was the best I think I've ever seen it, and I've been out there now. This was 6 or 7 years in a row that we've been doing this, and this was the best as far as elk being spread out and on every ridge, every drainage that we called into, we got responses. We could glass elk in the morning on pretty much any open ridge. It was great for that. The responsiveness, the vocalization from the elk was as good as I've ever seen. They were very responsive. And then the antler growth this year was, I mean, and I'm not talking, 380 bulls everywhere, but solid 6 points that normally would be a 270 bull out there. They were 300. And the bulls, and I told you, the bodies on those things are so big out there. We always get fooled. We're always 20 inches short at least on everything. So we're like, oh, that's a 300-inch bull. And we shoot it and get up there and it's at least 320. I think it was even worse this year. There were a couple of bulls that I would really like to go back and see just how big they were that we didn't get a chance to get on, but it was a ton of fun. So Nico was the young man who hunted with us this year, and he came down from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So came down, his mom brought him down, drove down, and then he's got an uncle that went on the hunt with us as well. And he comes from his mom's side of the family, they all hunt and grew up hunting and everything. But on his dad's side, it sounds like they, not a lot of hunting background or history there. So he hunted for deer in Saskatchewan last year. That was his first time going out and was not successful. So this was a big deal for him to be able to come down and do this. So he has no use of his legs. So he's 16, was born with spina bifida and has no use of his legs, no sensation, no feeling or anything. So I mean, it's we've carried kiddos before for a little ways, just where they get tired out or something, but we've never had them completely immobile like that in the woods. And so we had a cool little backpack with a seat on it, and I don't know how comfortable it was, but we used that. And my son Sam, who just turned 16 this past week, he was 15 at the time, but he was able to skip a few days of school and go out with us. And so we tasked him with carrying Nico. So the two of them, a couple of 15, 16-year-olds, I'm not sure what their conversations were like or how much fun of us, they were making the whole time, but they bonded there, and the rest of it, same group of guys. And I just can't say enough about, I think this is, like I said, 6 or 7 years now, and most of them have not even missed a year.
Wow.
And so they sacrifice in the heart of elk season a week of their own hunting to be out there. And I think for those of us that have been there and experienced it, you couldn't keep us from that hunt. And it's just, it's bigger than just an elk hunt. And I think that's the thing that it always gets just really concreted in our mind each season is this isn't just about elk hunting. This is about us, sacrificing time that we normally would take for ourselves and thinking of somebody else. And when you do that, it's, I'm the worst. I'm the most selfish person when it comes to elk hunting, and September's so short, and just wanting to be out there to call in elk for myself or for my kiddos or for, whoever it is. But when you do something like this, and there was a time, I think it was on the second day, we were walking up the hill, had an elk bugling, and I just happened to turn around because I'm always one out in front. I've got the bugle too. I'm going to go out there and find the elk, and I'm going to say, okay, we need to set up here. And I turn around, and my 15-year-old son, Sam, is carrying Nico up the hill. And I had to turn back around. I was like, tears and everything. It was so powerful to recognize that, hey, my son's getting a chance to be the legs for somebody else, to do something we love and we take for granted. You take for granted that, sometimes we're out of shape and that mountain's steep and it sucks to climb up. But some people don't have that opportunity. And so to be able to, in a very small way, give to them what we love and share it with them, it's every year is just powerful. This was probably my favorite year, just for a bunch of reasons. But anyway, I don't know where I was going or what I was rambling about there, but we had an incredible time chasing elk with Nico. And we stopped and shot the rifle to make sure he was on, and he shot a 7 or 8 shot group that was just within 2 or 3 inches. Really good shooter. He'd shoot and pull that trigger, and you couldn't see anything move other than the trigger just coming back smooth. And so we knew that if we got an elk in front of him and he was comfortable, it was going to be good. What we didn't know is how hard it was going to be to get him comfortable to pull the trigger. We called in the first day a bull to like 90 yards, and it stood frontal with one tree in front of it, looking over the top of the tree for about 10 minutes. And we're like, it's going to turn broadside. When it turns broadside, we'll cow call. And, just in the time that the bull turns broadside and you've got to adjust the scope over to get on it, it hesitated a little bit there, and then it will turn and quartered away, and he wasn't comfortable with the quartering away shot. And after 3 or 4 times of this, it was like, okay, we've got to get him a little more comfortable. And we finally found the bull that we were going after and got him set up on it. And we kept that bull on the wide open hillside for probably 3 minutes, and he wasn't shooting. So I finally went down to him like, hey, are we shooting this bull? Am I calling because I'm trying to keep it there and you're decided to pass it. And Donnie said, no, we just can't get him stable enough on the platform. So we had it's basically a little mini shooting bench, a little seat with a little support out front, a little support arm to put the rifle on. And that support arm, just the angle of the hill and everything, Nico said, when I put the crosshairs on the bull's shoulder, it would move from the top of the shoulder to the bottom of the shoulder to the back of the ribs. And I just wasn't comfortable shooting with it moving that much. So we repositioned and put a tripod, one of the camera tripods, under the front of the rifle and got it all set. And he's like, okay, this is solid. I'm good now. Unfortunately, by that time, the bull had moved back into the timber and wasn't out on the open. So a lot of really cool things, but I'll keep it short here because we are going to have a film come out with all the footage. But we were able to call the bull back out on the hillside. Nico made a phenomenal shot. The bull took about 3 steps and started sliding down the hill and came to a rest about 20 yards away from where it was standing when he shot it. And he was able to make it down there. Sam was able to bring him down the mountain. His mom was there. His uncle was there. And just an incredible, incredible experience. And he shot a really beautiful 7x7 bull. So,
whoa.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you think about what that meant to him, probably meant to all of you. And then you think about a 16-year-old like Sam, what a life lesson and what a profound impact that probably had on him. He probably couldn't have done anything with his time that was a better thing to do than what he got to do those days.
Yeah, I think, first going out there, he was just like, oh, awesome, I get to skip school. And, as a bonus, we get to go out and hear elk bugle. And, 15, 16 years old, you don't always vocalize feelings or, the outward expression, it's like, how was that? Oh, it was pretty cool, type of thing. But I think, like you said, just inwardly, that experience, it was something that he's the first one of my kiddos that's been able to go on one of those hunts with us. And I wish I would have taken all of my kids on those hunts just for that experience. Because like you said, it puts things in a different perspective. And a lot of times when you're 15 or 16, I don't think you get that perspective. It's hard to find experiences to help form that perspective. And we're very, very fortunate that he was able to be there. And I'm sure it won't be the last time that he's involved with something like that.
Oh, that's so cool. And a 7x7, holy smokes.
Yeah. So in fact, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but when you were out there with your buddy hunting, you told me the drainage that the bull was shot in, this one was in the same drainage. So
really?
I'm wondering or guessing maybe you might have actually seen the bull. So,
I might have some footage of him.
Yeah, real nice.
We got footage of so many elk that we have footage of. It's crazy.
He was a big growly sounding bugle, 6-point frame with perfect matching little stickers in between his 4th and 5th on each side.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, pretty bull.
Well, I hope that you get to do that every year, Corey.
I made a promise to one of the kiddos that he was saying a prayer out there and just said, help these guys continue doing what they do. And I promised him after it was done, I said, as long as we keep getting awesome kiddos like you, I will keep doing this forever. So I think I'll be there doing that even when I'm not able to hunt for myself.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I hope you do that. I do, because I know you well enough. I know how much it means to you to be able to be a part of that and share just a little bit of your fortune and your health and your expertise to the benefit of someone who, it's tough to watch that. I mean, when I watch those on your Destination Elk or your YouTube channel, it's like, all right, Where's the Kleenex here?
We actually just released a film on our YouTube channel from Austin, who was a young man we got to hunt with a couple of years ago. And that one, I put together a film from that hunt. It's just out on our YouTube channel, but it's one, don't watch it with a crowd if you want to maintain any composure, because it's a tearjerker for sure.
Huh. Well, thanks for doing that. Means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it means a lot to us, and like I said, it's we receive far more than we give off of those hunts. And I just credit Donnie. He's the one that got us involved with it initially, and he went out. First time had an opportunity to go, and he came back and just said, "We have to find a way to do this every year." And so he's kind of the one that takes the reins and does all the logistics and makes sure everything's in place to be able to do those hunts. And
cool. Well, I just got back from Wyoming 2 days ago. We do a sweepstakes hunt with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation every year.
Speaking of which, I was going to say, I'm going to interrupt you because you're giving away a hunt in Kentucky, which you and I have talked about how much we want to hunt in Kentucky.
I know.
Well, you weaseled your way into being able to go to Kentucky by giving away a hunt in Kentucky.
Yeah, well, if that's what it takes to get there and just explore that landscape, that's what I'm going to do. And so, through now and November 1st, if you want to be in that sweepstakes, every year we pick somebody. And in addition to that, you get this crazy gear package. I have no idea what the gear package is. I mean, it's optics, rifles, ammo, packs, clothes, boots, knives, whatever you need to go elk hunting, it's there. So we lucked out. Well, the winner from 2020, he didn't draw in 2021. So we always roll everybody over to the next year. And so now he had an extra point. And he's from Atlanta area down in Georgia. And so he drew this year. And just such a great guy. I've been so lucky with all these sweepstakes winners. They have been so much fun to hang out with. We become friends for forever, I hope. And my son had a pronghorn tag in the same general area, so I went down there, and my son milked that hunt till the last 15 minutes of the last day, which is normal for him. Matthew, I showed him some pronghorn that I'm sure would get close to the record book, but because I saw them, they weren't good enough. So he's got a pass on them. I'm like, whatever. So anyhow, Sean, our sweepstakes winner, comes in the day the pronghorn hunt's wrapping up. So we had 2.5 days to scout before his season started. And I could not believe the intensity of the bugling that was going on.
Really?
October 9th, 10th. I think season opened on the 11th. And I had no expectation that it'd be like that. Well, the first day we go into this spot, and the elk are responding to hunting pressure the way you think they would. They're all going to this private land just up the ridge above us. We're right on the boundary, and there's no fences in this area. It's you better be navigating. You better have your Go Hunt maps on. And so right at daylight, when we're walking in there, there's a bull with a cow and a calf, and it was a nice bull, but they're on their way. They're 10 yards from the boundary. I'm like, ooh, no, we can't do that. So we sit there all day. The wind blows a steady 35 miles an hour.
So just an average day in Wyoming.
Yeah. And the forecast said the gusts were 40 to 70 that day. And sitting there, my lips still are sandblasted. And so we found this berm that we're sitting behind, and you'd peek up. And when you'd peek up to look out anywhere, it just, you just get inundated with sand and dirt and leaves. Man. It's like, and you couldn't hear anything. Well, about 6 o'clock, the wind died down a little bit and the woods erupted. And a really, really nice bull, a great big 6-point, is like, well, I want to be on video, but I don't want to get shot. So I'm going to walk down here. I'm going to stand right on the corner of this public. They won't dare shoot me there. And I'm going to bugle till I can't bugle anymore. So he did.
Man.
But
and how far away from you was he?
At that point, from where we were hiding from the wind, he is about, I think, 500 yards.
Yeah.
But we could have snuck through this little crevice. But I'd went and marked all the corner areas, and I'm like, okay, he somehow must have a good map system because he is right next to that corner. He's probably, I can tell he's on public because the ridge just over the crest of the ridge is where the private starts. Well, I get looking up the hill, and there's a herd of about 220, 250 elk, and they're moving our direction.
Wow.
And I told Sean, I'm like, you know what the best thing we could do is let's get the heck out of here because these elk want to come down in here, and let's let them come in here tonight. And maybe they'll be there in the morning. So we grab our stuff, and this last little bit of daylight, we're sneaking down one of these washes that, fortunately you can hide in. And by the time we get about, 3/4 of a mile away, it's now dark, and full moon's got everything lit up. You can hear elk just tearing it up. And I'm not sure. Sean may have thought I was crazy, but I knew that they weren't going to get deep enough into this section of public by the time shooting light ended that I didn't want to risk it. And he agreed. He's like, look, I didn't come here to get in trouble with the landowner. And I said, I think if we leave and come back early in the morning, some of these elk will still be in here. So we did that, go to our cabin, come back the next morning. We're walking in without headlamps. It's so bright in the moon, you don't need a headlamp even slightly.
Wow.
And we crest the final ridge, and now we got about, 500 yards to get to our little foxhole there that we can hide from the wind, because the wind that day is supposed to drop down to 25. So we're going to have it easy this day. And as we're doing that, I hear elk bugling, but everything's to my right because that's my good ear. And Jace, the camera guy's like, they're just right up there. I'm like, no, they're over here. He's like, no, they're right up there, right where we're hunting. So he, to solve the argument, he pulls up his binos in the moonlight, and he's like, look, they're right up there by that dike where that reservoir is. And I'm like, what? No, they're over here. So I'm like, well, I better look. And I look, and sure enough, they're just below that dike. But the downside is it transitions from sagebrush to this white, yellowish grass. And that's what we got to cross to get in our shooting position, because we've got a downhill thermal that's perfect. They're slightly above us. The prevailing wind is coming from the west. We're kind of a little bit to their east. Well, we got to cross about 200 yards of this white, yellowish grass to get in the next little depression. And as quick as we went across that, no headlamps, nothing. I think the moonlight cast our shadows on that whitish colored grass. Those elk took off like they're shot out of a cannon. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I turned to our sweepstakes winner. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I have never been busted by elk because of moonlight shadows. This is a first. And I'm sure Sean is thinking, well, what kind of knothead is this guy? I listen and take his suggestions. I'm going to start going my own route here. So we start working our way up to that little perch where we'd sat the day before. And we get down in this little cut, and we're sitting there, and the sun's starting to come up. And again, I'm one of those guys who I want to give credit to the camera guy when he does something wrong. Right, because he gets blamed for everything that goes wrong. Well, Jace, he whispers to me, he's like, what's that out there right next to that bush out there? I'm like, I don't know. What is it? Is it a rock or what? And so we pull up our binos, and it looks like an elk in color, but it's not moving. And we're like, Well, it gets a little bit brighter. I mean, the sun is starting to, slowly illuminate things. And now this rock starts moving. I'm like, all right, that's all. But does it have antlers? So we got to wait there till it gets light enough that we can see if it's got antlers. Well, it turns out to be a 6-point bull. And he decides that since all of his girls left with that other bull, he's going to go find his own. Well, he's starting to loop downwind from us. I'm like, oh no. So he's 500 yards away. And I told Sean, I'm like, get ready. We either got to move towards him and he's going to see us, or I got to do some cow calls and see if he's still in the mood. I did one cow call and he stopped his trot and he turned 90 degrees, came right to us. And he dropped down in this little gulch, this little depression, and Sean's on the bipod and he's in the prone position. He's like, where is he? I'm like, he's coming. Just get ready. Well, little did I know that where Sean was, just slightly below me, there was about a 4-foot sage bush right in front of him. And this bull, I'm reading off rangers. I'm like 200, 180, 170. And when Sean got there, we went and checked his rifle, and he is zeroed. The absolute zero is 200 yards. So, and he shot great groups. I'm like, once this bull's under 200, he doesn't need me reading off ranges. He just hold and shoot. And so you can hear Sean down there. This bush is in my way. What do I do? This bush is in my way. Like, just calm down. Just get ready, because when he steps out from behind that bush, he's going to be like eyeball to eyeball. Well, that bull comes to 110 yards, and he stops, and he bugles at us. And Sean has never shot a bull elk before. I can't believe the composure he kept. The bull steps to our left of this bush and then turns and looks straight at us. He's like, I got him if you're okay with the frontal shot. I'm like, at that distance, I don't care. You can have whatever shot you want. Boom, he shoots it, and it just rocks that bull. And because we're 500 yards from these private boundaries, we had made a deal that if that bull is still on his feet, you're still shooting. So he shot until it was like down. And you want to know the first thing he turned to me and said? He said, all I could think about, and we got this on video, you're going to crack up. You're going to think we planted him to say this. All I could think about, staring at him in this crosshairs, he's face on. All I see is this big body. And I'm thinking, well, if Corey Jacobson can kill an elk with a bow on a frontal shot, surely I can kill this at 100 yards with a frontal shot. That's the first thing. Yeah. Guess what, Sean? You smoked that.
You did it.
That thing.
That's awesome.
He was so excited. He'd never taken a bull elk before. And we go from, I think he told me he's at like 700 or 800 feet elevation, and he goes up to 8,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah, that's rough.
And yeah, but he talk about just a happy guy. Every day's a good day. Doesn't matter. Blah, blah. I'm like, well, yeah, it kind of matters. You got this tag. For me, it matters.
Let's make it matter.
And so he got his first bull, and he was so happy, so thankful, so grateful. I guess if there's a learning point to that hunt, it is, some days it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
Like, if we would have sat there and waited till dark, those elk would have been about 150 yards from us, but they still would have probably been on the boundary line. So sometimes you got to make a little bit of a sacrifice. And we came back in there, and there were elk still in there. And And the other part of that is, if you find a 6-point bull that just got his cows taken away from him, even a Randy Newberg cow call can bring him right on a dead run. I mean, it was like we were shaking a bucket full of treats or something. He was like, boom.
Well, what's your? I think your needs in the different seasons and the peak rut. What are needs 1 through 99?
Yeah, cows.
Cows. That's the bull's only need in late September, first part of October.
Yeah, and Sean, he'd shot a couple cow elk before he comes out west quite a bit. But he's like, I had no idea on October 12th a bull elk would come to a cow call like that. I'm like, well, if he'd been shot at 4 or 5 times already this year with a rifle, he wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
But we had the advantage that he hadn't been shot at yet, and he should have been paying better attention.
Yep.
But, you're talking about the antler growth that you saw in places this year, and down there, this is a pretty dry spot of Wyoming. It was unbelievable how much grass and forage there was, and the quality of the antler growth was just off the charts. And here it is, October 11th. This bull or 12th. This bull's been rutting hard for a month. He still had quite a bit of fat on him.
Man.
Yeah, I could not believe it. But
yeah,
anyhow,
we saw the same thing. Most of the elk that we shot had more fat than what I've been used to seeing.
Yeah. So I admired Sean for sticking with it and realizing that, he was on board. When I said, what do you think about the idea of boogieing out of here now? He had his pack on, his rifle in his sling, and he was heading down that drainage before Jason and I could even get our stuff gathered up. And he's looking back at me like, what are you waiting for, man? I don't want to spook these things out of here. Let them come in here. So it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Those are fun to be a part of when you get to see somebody get that excited, whether it's their first elk or first bull, and those are neat experiences.
Yeah. So for me, you and I get to go on a lot of elk hunts, but every elk hunt I've been on this year, there's just either some new lessons, like I did not know I could spook elk in the moonlight by casting shadows on light-colored grass. That's a new lesson for me. And then there's some, I guess you'd call it confirming or affirming some of the things you already know, but maybe you get a little bit, lackadaisical about things, and you don't call when maybe you should call. You're like, no, I'm tired of calling, or people are going to think I'm nuts. So I really enjoyed it. Now I'm heading out. I'm driving down to get 4 llamas here in a couple days, and I'm going to go do the Montana gig, the opening weekend gig.
Nice. So, when are you going to be returning those llamas?
Let's see, the 25th.
Okay.
Well, you need some?
Well, I've got 4 llamas reserved for the first week of November.
Oh,
so okay. I'm going to be going over and getting 4 llamas, and we're going in and doing a backcountry hunt with llamas in November, which is never hunted Idaho for elk in November before, so it'll be first experience. And we've got highs of, I think the high next weekend is 37 degrees here with snow forecasted. So by the first week in November, we don't have a clue what the weather's going to be, but it could be 2 feet of snow, or it could be 70 degrees.
Yeah. One of the things I've forced myself to do this year with my Montana General Elk Tag is I've forced myself to try a hunt like the term is often used, the weekend warrior, where I'll say, all right, I got a day, I'm going to go do it. Well, it's a reminder to me that, back when that was how I had to do it, how hard it is to try to build a pattern and understand what's going on in the landscape if you only have a day.
Yeah.
So I've already done 2 days doing that. And normally I avoid the rifle opener in Montana like more than the plague. My wife could get me to do just about any task she wants opening weekend in Montana, just because I have this blessing of being able to hunt when I want. But this year I'm forcing myself to have to go and do it. I'm like, you know what? It's a good reminder to me of how the average person just has to grind it out. And so I'm going to get the llamas. I'm filming myself. That's the biggest
Wow.
reason I'm getting llamas is the amount of production gear the guys told me I got to bring in there. I'm like, this is me. I don't even know how to use most of this production gear. And well, then obviously, if for some reason I do luck out, I want to have llamas to help me get it out. I don't want to make a bunch of trips myself,
Yeah.
which again, that's how most people, it is for them. So I'm going in Friday night. Gonna be just like everybody else. Set up my camp, and I'm gonna hunt Friday and Saturday, or Saturday and Sunday, and I'm gonna pull out Sunday night, just like probably everyone else who has to go to work. And if I don't fill my tag, I'm gonna find another weekend where I got to do it this year. And so, I know. For me, I wanna, I guess, have that reminder, you'd call it, or that just refresher about the challenges that the average person faces who doesn't
Yeah.
have the blessings that I have, where I can pick my days. I can hunt Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and let the masses be there the other 3 days.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's
tough.
just, I mean, there's lessons to be learned in each of those periods and in each of those styles of hunting. So I think, by going and doing that, not only is it a refresher, but it's going to help you be able to share that information that, hey, here's what I observed, here's what I did to either overcome it, or this was my solution to hopefully use the pressure to my advantage, or whatever it is. And, I think we deal with it all the time with the way we hunt. But like you said, yeah, sometimes it's okay taking a day or two off on the weekend, knowing that the elk are going to be pressured and people are going to be out there. We take those days off and then go back out there. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. And I always say, I've got my opening day plan, and then I've got my rest of the season plan. So
Yeah.
I really do. I've got an opening day plan where this is as early as Montana pretty much ever opens their rifle elk season, October 22nd. There still could be some bugling. There could be some late cows that have bulls interested. So I'm mostly focusing on cow elk the first day. Where do I think the cows would be? And that's where I'm going. The second day, it's going to be a bit more of a trek. I'll leave the llamas at camp, but if I don't get one the first day, the second day, they're going to be in full on sanctuary mode after that first day of shooting.
Yeah.
And I got about 2 miles of blow down and rock and scree to traverse. But, that's how it is for most people. And so I'd like to say there's a pattern I could figure out, but I'm not going to get there early enough to build a pattern. If I'm lucky, maybe I'll have an hour to scout the Friday evening, and that'll be the pattern that I get to build from.
Yep.
And so I know it's fun. I have an elk in my freezer from Wyoming, which my freezer was really bare, Corey. I don't know how my freezer got this bare this year, but so now I don't want to say the pressure's off, but it is kind of off. If I don't get an elk in Montana, it's not the end of the world. It's more about lessons and learning and reminders, and see how it goes. So,
Yep. Well, and I heard just a little quote the other day, just a little phrase that I absolutely love, and I've always said, failure is sometimes more educational than success, and that. But this little saying was, "Failure is feedback."
Oh boy,
And
that's
so,
the truth.
yeah, and so it's just like, man, failure it's a positive thing as long as we apply it the right way. And so putting yourself in a situation where chances of failure are higher, the chances of learning are also higher if you're prepared for that.
Yeah, and I get it that some people don't have an extra elk tag or periods where they can go and purposely put themselves in a more challenging environment. They want to put themselves in the least challenging situation. I get that, but not everybody has that benefit. So I'm just trying to replicate that, and my motto has always been seek discomfort. In other words, put yourself in situations where you got to be a little uncomfortable, because then you have to think. Then you have to sort it out. Then you have to explore maybe some ideas that you otherwise wouldn't have been forced to explore or consider. And
Yeah.
so I'm seeking some, maybe not physical discomfort if the llamas can carry a tent and a sleeping bag for me. But as far as the discomfort of, I really have no idea what the heck it's going to be like, other than I know I used to hunt this area a lot, and I'd come in from a different direction because there's a big trailhead up there. But there's just more ATV travel every year, and I actually haven't hunted that area for 10 or 12 years because of the amount of ATV traffic. And I've always said, man, if I could come in from this other side, well, it's a long walk from the other side. But if I got llamas, that's so part of it is anticipating based on what I know from that motorized trailhead up there and all the ATV trails on that side of this general area. By the second day, those elk are going to be somewhere else. And I hope that somewhere else is right out in front of my 308.
Yep.
So we'll
Cool.
see. I guess the next podcast.
I'm already ready for a report. So,
but what I got to do, I got to go buy my 3 wolf tags this week before I go, because you know what'll happen.
Yep.
I'll be sitting there listening for elk bugles, and here'll come 3 furry wolves or 10 furry wolves walking by, and I'll be without a tag. I can't believe I've waited that long. Usually that's the first thing I do in August or whatever, go buy my wolf tag.
Yeah, no kidding. You were taking a chance there, wandering around September without a wolf tag in your pocket.
I know, boy.
You're lucky you didn't get licked to death by a whole pack of them.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, that's kind of the report so far, Corey.
Yep. I'm excited. This is we get to do another follow-up report here in a couple of weeks. We'll be able to talk about your adventures, and we're going in similar deal. We're taking llamas and going to go back in, but we'll have wolf tags and white-tailed deer tags in our pocket. So
really,
yeah, we're going to go back in about 7 or 8 miles and set up a little base camp back in there and hunt the steep, nasty stuff where those bulls, we're hoping that first week in November, they're kind of maybe coming out of sanctuary a little bit and willing to stay out in the open looking for feed.
Yeah, they probably will be. I mean, that's once they start transitioning to that late season period, they have to stay out longer. They have to come out earlier, or I guess stay out later and come out earlier in the afternoon. Just they need the calories. They need the BTUs. So, and usually by then, the pressure has pushed them into these very predictable, tight locations.
Yeah,
I think you guys are gonna come out. Those poor llamas. They're going to have their work cut out.
Well, and with only 4 of them, we've got 2 elk tags and 2 deer tags and a bushel full of wolf tags. So there's a chance we may be getting a workout just shuttling llamas back and forth.
Yeah, there's a very good chance of that.
Which I'm hoping that's the case.
4 llamas?
4 llamas.
Tags, 2 deer tags.
Yeah.
Well,
and all of our gear, so.
Well, one trip you could take out both elk. And then the second trip, you could take out all your gear and 2 deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Either that or we could each pack a deer and all of our gear and just walk out with the 2 elk on the llamas and do it one trip.
You go right ahead.
I say every year I'm getting smarter, and I'm like, I'm going to be totally fine just carrying 1 quarter at a time and making 2 trips. And I still, for whatever reason, I can't convince myself, like I'm going out just once instead of going out and coming back and then going out again. Let's just load down and go. So we keep doing that.
You know, these 2 crazy brothers from Wyoming who are always in the elk calling contest, Cody and Curtis Garvin. So they find out we're going to be somewhere nearby on this elk hunt. And Curtis gets a hold of me. He's like, hey, if you guys shoot an elk, you better call me because I take it serious. I'll be offended if you don't let me help pack that elk out. I'm like, are you for real? He's like, yeah. So he drives over to our cabin before season opens, and he's just jabbering, and we're having a good time talking. And as he's leaving, he's like, now, remember, you like to gut and gill them. So every guest hunter, I tell him I get to do the gut and gilling. He says, I feel the same way about packing elk.
Wow.
And I look at Kurt, and he's maybe 110 pounds if you... I mean, he is nothing but a piece of piano wire. So we get this bull down. I climb up a ridge. I send him a text. I'm like, well, if you were serious about that, here's a waypoint. You know, we got one on the dirt here. I'm over there bent over this bull, carving and cutting. And Jace, the camera guy's like, look, here comes Curtis. He drives out there. He hikes this 1.5 miles with an empty pack, and he is just like, oh, I can't believe you guys are going to let me help out. Oh, my gosh. He made 2 trips. But I told him, I said, we're only doing a quarter. You know, we're not, none of this doubling quarters and stuff. Look at this yard sale of production gear and other stuff we got spread out here. So, thanks, Curtis.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, how often do you get somebody who demands that they get to come and carry a quarter or 2 of your elk?
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, talk about 2 nice guys.
Yeah,
they're wonderful guys. I hope they come to the calling contest again next summer.
Yep.
So, but anyhow, I know that you knew them, and I told them I'd tell you hello from them.
Well, it might be a little bit of a long drive for them, but man, if I know that they're that willing to pack elk, I might have to keep them on speed dial too.
Yeah, sorry, Curtis, if you start getting all kinds of phone calls and emails of people saying, well, now that I know that. And then traveling through Rawlins, Wyoming, there is a place. Hey, have you ever dreamed about shooting like a 360-inch 5-point bull?
Oh, no. My dreams aren't that big.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's a guy named Mike Luhan who owns, it's called Big City Mike's Steakhouse. Stop in there if you're ever going through Rawlins, Wyoming, and when you walk in, look over to the right. He's got 5 ridiculously big bulls, and 3 of them are true 5-point bulls that are all over 350.
Wow.
One of them's got 62-inch main beams, and the dropper whale tail on that is over 24 inches.
Wow.
And you talk about a nice guy and good food. He saw us and he came over there and he's telling me the story about every one of them. I'm like, you shot all these? He's like, oh yeah, I don't shoot those 6 points. I'm a big 5-point fan. I'm like, man. So anyhow, that's a shameless plug for Big City Mike's Steakhouse in Rawlins, Wyoming, and Mike Luhan. He's such a good guy. Good? Oh yeah, really good. Everything's homemade right there. I mean, so yeah, that had nothing to do with the Elk Talk podcast, but
Mike. But if you like big 5 points, that's a place to go to check them out.
Oh man, I'm like, where'd you get these, Mike? He just smiles. Like, if I tell you and I tell everybody else, there won't be any more big 5 points there. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
True.
So, but no, that'd be a dream of mine to shoot. Hey, I bet you that 1 5-point he's got there is 360-ish. It is just, you think it's fake when you walk in there.
Yeah.
And
big 5 points. Big 5 points look even bigger because they're 5 points, and they just look cool. Jesse shot that 5-point. It was nowhere near 350, but it was a very healthy 5-point mature bull and just didn't grow 6s. You know, sometimes you'll get them just little 1-inch nubs or something. It's like, well, it's pretty much a 5-point. But when you see those true 5 points that, like you said, that back end of the whale tail is just slick. That's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, I'll shoot it this weekend. If I see a little 5-point, I'll be really happy. I mean, if I see one like Mike shot, well, yeah, I'd be really happy, like ecstatic then. But I'm not that particular.
Yep.
So, but then when I get back, I got to drive over to Idaho and fill my whitetail tag. You got any spots you want to tell me offline?
Well, I might, yeah.
All
If you want to wrangle a couple llamas, why don't you just come with us and go in on our hunt? And there's big whitetails in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Now you tell me. I think my tag is for a different part.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's right. Non-residents have to choose their area now. Well, you know.
Otherwise, I'd bring like 8 llamas.
Yeah, you've stayed there and kept hot chocolate warm for us and cooked all sorts of peak refuel meals and.
Yeah, you know, if you want somebody to bring llamas, you probably ought to invite them before the season is open. You know,
I've invited you a handful of times, and every time you're like, "Oh, well, yeah, well, looks like that area is pretty steep. I'm busy that week," and so I just thought this is probably going to be one of our steeper and more rugged adventures. So.
Okay, well, then you don't have a big enough whitetail to get me there. Then,
well, going into where the whitetail are, you'd probably be okay as long as you don't dive down into the holes where the elk are.
Oh. Well, next year I'll come. I'll tend the fires at camp. I'll bring my wife will make us some apple pies and stuff, and I'll bring some llamas, and I'll just hunt whitetails.
There you go.
If that works for you, I mean,
that works for me.
I'm in. Okay. But if you shoot one down in one of those hell holes, I ain't going down there.
Well, so last time we did a llama hunt, we just left the llamas at camp, and so when I shot my bull, John volunteered to go the 3 miles, whatever it was, back to camp. I mean, like 2,600 vertical drop and then 2,600 back up, just to get the llamas to pack it out. And I'm like, I think we can get it in one trip just on our backs. He's like, we've got the llamas there. So he went back and got them. I'm pretty sure this year we're going to be taking a couple llamas with us every day so that we don't have to make extra trips. And
yeah, I mean, you're getting older, Corey. Don't be getting stupider.
I know. And I got thinking, I can just carry my rifle on. I don't have to carry a backpack. No. We just put the backpacks on the llamas. We can just carry a rifle and just take them everywhere.
That's what I do.
So then I can go twice as far.
No, you go twice as slow.
Oh, gotcha.
No, my spotter, all my kill kit, everything, it's in the panniers. You know, because these guys, those llamas get kind of ornery if they aren't being, worked a little bit.
Weighted down.
So if you want to rent llamas, I don't know if Bo has any remaining, but you might be fully booked. But go to Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas and check them out.
Yeah, this will be my second time renting them, and after our last experience, I was sold then, so I'm excited.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's a game changer. It just makes you. It extends the limits of how far you're willing to go, and it also, you can bring a few more creature comforts.
Yep.
And well, Corey, I gotta run.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, that's all good. I think we've told enough stories this time that it'll take people long enough to filter through and figure out what's true and what wasn't, that by the time they get that figured out, hopefully we'll have more stories for them.
Well, hopefully, because once I get done with this Montana thing, my son has the Wyoming migration mule deer hunt. I don't have a tag, so I'll just be there eating donuts and drinking coffee. But,
I forgot to tell you. So Nico, the young man who came down from Saskatoon and hunted with us, their family owns the Dairy Queen in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
No way. Nico, hold on here. We have a business proposition to make.
I told them they quit making the strawberry cheesequake blizzards down here, which was always my favorite. And they said, well, all you have to do is go in and ask them. They'll custom make one. Like, if they have the ingredients, they should be able to custom make it. So that gave me newfound confidence in Dairy Queen.
Well, I've eaten at the one in Saskatoon. I've eaten at the one in Regina.
What?
Yeah.
No kidding.
I've eaten at multiple ones in Winnipeg, Falcon Lake, Manitoba. Oh, yeah. I mean, the Kings Highway 1 that goes across the southern part of Canada, it's littered with two things, Tim Hortons and Dairy Queen. I mean, you can't go wrong. Ice cream and donuts and coffee.
I should have known. You probably have a map in your office there that says, where in the world has Randy eaten at Dairy Queen? And he's got little waypoints all over at all the Dairy Queens.
Yeah, this is a funny story. So, I've got one for you also. This guy, I'm packing up to go on this Wyoming hunt with Bo and the llamas and Mike and all of us. I mean, I'm walking out the door. The doorbell rings. Some guy shows up at my house, and he's like, "Oh, Randy." I'm like, "Yeah." This guy Ben from Ottawa, Ontario, had driven out to Montana because he dreamed about archery elk hunting, and he had spent 20-some days hunting elk in the grizzly country.
Wow!
And he didn't get one, but he got close a few times. So he comes to Bozeman, goes to Dairy Queen, and buys a whole little shack full of Dairy Queen gift cards. And he's on my doorstep saying, I watched all your content. I listened to the Elk Talk podcast, blah, 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 blah. It's amazing how much of that stuff actually worked. Here, I got to give these to you. I'm like, what? No, you don't got to give them to me. No. He's like, no, I whatever information you guys are providing, it's worth way more than this bag of gift cards. So I gave one to everybody here, and there's still one for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Ben said to make sure I saved one for you.
Well, Ben, that is just, I don't know if I trust Randy to hold on to it for me for very long, but if I can wrestle it away from him, there's a thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, he didn't get one, so I'm not sure how good the advice is.
Well, I was going to say, man, imagine what happens when he gets an elk.
Oh, man. Who knows? But anyhow, folks, I hope you all are out having fun hunting. Corey, I hope that you end up filling all those tags. I don't know when we'll get a chance to connect again, but since I didn't publish that other podcast when it was supposed to, it's already 2 weeks late, and then this one, so
we'll be right on time.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good. Now you kept them waiting. There's anticipation, and now they get 2 of them. So
yeah, and folks, last call pretty soon here for the winter hunt with Randy. Someone's going to Kentucky, first week of October, 2023. You're going to get a Kentucky elk tag, and you're going to have to put up with me walking around the woods, corny humor.
Man, but a Kentucky elk tag would be worth all that.
Yeah, putting up with me might be worth it. I know. My worry is the winner's going to say, nah, if I got to go with Newberg, I'll decline. But anyhow, go to rmef.org. It's a fundraiser for them. It's a membership drive for them. We cover the costs. They line up the tag, and all of our sponsors put in all the gear. So this is like a net all profit to RMEF, and hopefully folks will go sign up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. rmef.org/win-a-hunt, I guess.
What are you going to do if we show up in Kentucky and your hunt winner takes off his mustache and wig and looks a lot like me? Well, we'll have to call the alternate. I'm sending you home. Sorry. Darn it. I'm trying to figure out a way to weasel into that, but
well, you can come there and call for the guy if you wanted to, but you're going to have your hunt for Outfitters for Hope thing that week. So
we'll figure something out.
All right.
Good luck to everybody who wants to go to Kentucky. I'm going to still keep scheming on how I can make it there.
All right, Corey. Have a great day.
Thanks, Randy.
Have a good couple weeks ahead.
Sounds good. We'll chat with you soon.